Good morning. Welcome to this week's episode of Elevate Your Coaching Business. And today we're going to have a look at the power of your integrity in your coaching business. So put it this way, if you suffer from imposter syndrome, or if you've ever suffered from imposter syndrome, pay attention, because I'm about to kind of flip the lid on it a bit and give you a different perspective to look at it and to know, is something actually imposter syndrome, or is it just that you're not working in alignment with your integrity? And when you know this, it's like it blows like the lid off, like your emotions, what you're feeling, and also where you can go with it. So for those of you that have no idea who I am, hi, I'm Joanne O'Halloran, and I'm a business mentor for coaches that want to sign their first 3 to 5 clients with a rinse and repeat system. It's a predictable format that you can see exactly where your leads are coming from, how you actually bring them in, how you convert them. It's a beautiful system and works every single solitary time. But when you're in business, what do you experience? We always have highs and lows. We always have, things that go up and down. There's things that don't go right. And it always brings up some level of emotion in us. And there's no doubt about it, we cannot make business decisions based on our emotions, but a lot of the time, particularly when you're in your first couple of years, you do, because the confidence in what you're creating and how to go about doing it isn't there. And the how is really where people get stuck. So what does this have to do with imposter syndrome? What does this have to do with integrity? Well, this is what I'm going to blow the lid on for you today. And I see it quite a lot. Like, I literally had conversations last week with somebody who has set up their business, but they're experiencing all of this. And I'm going to share with you exactly why they're experiencing this so that you can see whether or not this resonates with you too. So, like, when you think about imposter syndrome, what do you think about? Do you think about feeling like I'm not enough? Like, you procrastinate. There's a lot of perfectionism when it comes to imposter syndrome, because no matter what you do, you don't feel like you've ever done enough, that there's always something else. There's always something more. It's the extra, and you're never in that satisfied. And anytime somebody comes to talk to you about, you have that instant, what have I done wrong? What are they going to say? What did I not see? What did I not realize? Like, I've experienced this, so I know. But yet, if I look at like my performance history, the same way, if you look at your performance history, are you always moving forward? Are you always creating results? I guarantee you the answer will be yes. Like, when you take action, I guarantee you the answer will be yes. Do you know that people that don't suffer with imposter syndrome are actually the ones that tend to have that, like, they're either not pushing themselves far, they're comfortable with what they've done. So as in, like, they're super competent in what they're doing, and or they're not operating in integrity. And this is why I want to share this with you today, because I see it a lot, like at the beginning of businesses, particularly when somebody's trying to figure out their niche. This is normally when it comes up and you start questioning, why things aren't happening, why things aren't moving, why it's happening for somebody else and not for me. And again, this is why I want to stress that it's the power of your integrity in your business that actually supports you catapulting your results. So, like, people will talk about authenticity and, being real, showing the real you, letting people see you. And all of that is true because it's integrity. When we're not in integrity, we're not being truthful, we're not being honest, we're not operating from like a grounded place, a centered place. So we then kind of hold back what we're putting forward because we're not trusting of it. So again, there's a difference here between imposter syndrome and not being in alignment with your integrity. So how do you know the difference? One of the simplest things that I can share with you to know the difference between imposter syndrome and operating with integrity, specifically in your business, is when you think about your niche, when you think about the people that you're supporting, when you think about the results that you're sharing with people that they can get, when you are, talking about the one big thing that you can support somebody with, like who you help X, Y, and Z with, where this comes up with the difference between imposter syndrome and integrity is imposter syndrome is you're already doing it, but you don't feel that there's enough there. You feel like, maybe you need to do another course. Maybe you need, your social media to look a certain way. Like, there's always something extra that needs to be added on. That's imposter syndrome, because you're doing the work, it's being done, you're operating in it, you're living and breathing it, but you still don't feel like it's enough. You don't feel like that you have created enough in order to be able to support people with it. That's imposter syndrome. And it's not true, right? Because no matter what, you're always going to be like a couple of steps ahead minimum of your client anyway, because you've walked through it. That's how you're able to show them. Now, when it comes to integrity, if you have not created the result that you're promising your client, if you have not experienced it, if you have not walked through it, if you are not living and breathing it, then that's not operating in integrity, because you're trying to sell somebody a product or a service that you have no idea what it takes to create it. You have no idea what the result is going to look like, what it takes to get that result, what transformation pieces you've got to go through internally in order to create that. And that's where it's not operating in alignment with integrity. And honestly, I see it quite a lot. Like when you're starting out, like, and trying to figure out your niche, this is normally where it starts off at. It's like when you're trying to figure out your niche, you know, you get called, right? So if anybody that's a coach, you get called to coach for a reason, right? You get called to coach a particular type of person with a particular problem, and you grow from there, right? Like, because you've been there, you've experienced it, and you don't want anyone else to feel it. Like, so for example, like when I started my business originally, I started as a life coach to support other women in the corporate world, particularly mums, how to figure out what their passion and purpose in life was, because that's what I had done. I had all these things that were going on inside of me that I had worked through. And the more conversations I had with people, the more I realized, oh my goodness, I'm not alone. So many other people are experiencing, and I know what to do. Like, I know what to do. I know how to support you through it. And that was how it started. How it flipped into business is because every single solitary person wanted to know how I did it. How did I grow my business? How did I bring in clients? How did I find clients? How did I make money? And I was teaching it to my clients, because I'm like, oh, well, here's what I did. Here's what you can do. And they were trying it out and it was working. So that's how I was doing. That's an integrity. But when you're figuring out your niche and when you're operating from it, and if you're not seeing clients yet, ask yourself, do you truly know what it's like to walk through and work through what they have experienced? Have you done it yourself? Like, when you say you're the expert in this, have you actually walked through it yourself? And if you haven't, then you're not going to be operating in alignment, because you're not going to fully understand, like, I'm not going to say the problems, but you're not going to fully understand like any challenges that come up for somebody, and like where they feel it in their body, the impact that it's having, on their mind, on other parts of their life, and where to go to get specific answers. And like I said, this tends to happen at the beginning when people are setting up their niches and trying to figure out what they want. When you get called to do something, follow it. Like, follow it. You're called because you've lived and breathed it. Breathed it, that's not a word. You've lived and breathed it yourself. There you go. So you've walked through it, stand it. But what I see people doing way too often is, it's like, because you don't have the business know-how, you decide that it's not a profitable niche. You decide that it's not going to get you the results, and then shift into what you see other people doing. You have no idea how to do it because you haven't done it yourself. And then you start promoting that. That's where it doesn't work. And people can feel that, right? Like I always say, if you're ever on a phone call with somebody and they're chatting away to you, but there's something else, there's something they're not saying to you, like there's an agenda that's there, and you can feel it, but you don't know what it is, and you're waiting for them to get to the point. It's the same when you're not operating in integrity and you haven't walked through exactly what your ideal client needs to go through. Like, if you haven't walked through that, you're not operating in integrity, so you're going to be out of alignment with it. So therefore, fears are going to come up. Procrastination may or may not come up, but you're not going to see the results that you want because you don't have the proven method to be able to do this. This is not to bash anybody over the head. It is super common for people to kick into this when they're not seeing the results. But what you get to do is like flip yourself back and go, okay, is this something I actually know how to do? Or am I just guessing it because I've seen other people doing it? Like, do you truly know how to do it? And if not, go back to what you were originally called for. Like, why were you called to be a coach? What was it within inside of you that was pulling you forward? And come from that place, because that's where your magic is. That's where the beauty is. That's where your authenticity is. That's where the honesty is. That's where the magic happens, because that's how people can relate to you. So always remember, particularly with what we do, people are not actually buying like the service. So like, say, for example, with my mastermind, people are not really buying the mastermind. They're buying me, obviously, but they're buying my knowledge. They're buying my integrity, my trust, my connections, my like my history of what I've already created, both for myself and for my clients. That's what people are buying. So think about that for you. How are you demonstrating what people are getting from you? Like, how are you demonstrating that integrity? Because when you're operating in integrity, you're excited, you don't hold back, because there's nothing to hold back from, because you fully believe it. Like, you've lived it, you're breathing it, like it's happening. You can literally see it, like you can see it. It's in front of you and it oozes out of you. So there is power in that in your business, because people want to be connected with you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to reach out to you. They want to respond to you, because you have the solution, not your words on a page, not what you're telling people, but you have the solution, and people are drawn to that. They want that. They want to come to you and have you support them, because they can see that you're doing it. They can see that you've been through it. They can see that you understand them. Like, there's so many of my clients that have shared that anytime, like, it makes no difference to me, like, where I'll do a live from, where I'll do like a masterclass from, a challenge from. It makes no difference to me, because that's not a thing. It's what comes out of my mouth. But I will always show, I will always, like, so it was earlier on last year. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was in 2021. When we went into the second lockdown and COVID, was doing my masterclasses from my mum's house, because we had chosen to stay there, and because we didn't get to see them in the first group, and we didn't know it was going to go on as long, and I didn't want to go through that again, because I didn't want to be apart from them for that long. So myself and Leah went and stayed with my mum and my stepdad. And we were there for 6 weeks, but I obviously still running my business, had things to do. So I ran a masterclass from there, but I showed people where I was running my masterclass from. It was literally, I was on an ironing board. I was on my mother's ironing board, and I had the laptop sitting on top of the ironing board, and I had literally pushed everything out of the way behind me, so that, like, you couldn't see the mess that was on the bed, right? Because there was suitcases and everything. But I pushed everything out to the side. But I showed people this, because, we can make up whatever excuses we want to not do something, or we can just be real. That actually made so many clients come my way, because it was honest. It's like real life, like, it's the same way when I got rid of my vision board, right? I still have a vision board, but this one is true, like, to me. But my very first vision board had all the things on it that I thought abundant meant. So as in, like, like the really, like, big fancy house, the car, all those things. That's not in alignment with me at all, right? At all. So we got rid of that and then created the one that I actually want. So I have a vegetable patch out there. That's my pride and joy. Like, if you've ever seen the size of the courgettes that come out of that ground, like, they're huge. And I'm so proud of that. And, like, the fancy hotels is not really my thing. It's more, I actually love, and we're super outdoorsies, like a super outdoorsies family. So, like, being in the water, going camping, that's totally my jam and my vibe. So I operate from that now. Like, my vision is to have a boat, not the big fancy yachts, but I actually would love to live on a boat. Just would love to live on a boat. So, like, when I'm honest about the things that I enjoy and that, are not these big modern fancy things, other people relate to that, because they're my people, right? So being integrity creates that power, creates that pull. Like, just think about, like, a magnet. Like, you become a magnet to people, because they want to be connected to you, because they get you, they relate to you, and you get them, because you've been there and you're showing that you've been there. So that is my invitation for you today from watching all of this, is connect back with what you're doing and ask yourself, like, if you have that imposter syndrome going on, like true imposter syndrome, like I explained it, start believing in yourself and start trusting yourself. Start trusting yourself. You are enough. You have done enough. You're being enough. It is the experiences that you've had that people want to learn from, not the additional qualifications. Will they support? Yes. Do you need them to get yourself going? No, you don't. You've done enough. You've learned enough. You've certified yourself enough. Start moving forward and then start adding on. If you are, if you have a niche that you have not, like, you have no idea what they're going through, you haven't experienced it, you don't know the actual steps that it takes to create that, even though you're watching other people doing it. If you have not done it yourself, go back to why you were originally called to coach. Why was it that you wanted to be a coach? What was it that you wanted to create? What was the difference that you wanted to make in people's lives? And are you doing it too? Like what I said to somebody that came to me the other day, who wants to teach people how to generate X amount of income. They haven't done it themselves. So therefore, that's not operating in integrity. However, what you could do is say, okay, I'm challenging myself to create X amount. So say like 90K in 90 days, for example. So I'm challenging myself to do that. Come along on the journey with me, because then you're living it, you're breathing it. You can see what works, you can see what doesn't work, and people are coming along with you. So that when you do it, because when we hold ourselves accountable, we tend to do things right. But when you do it, then you're operating in alignment, you're operating in integrity. So think about that and connect with yourself. Is it imposter syndrome? And if it is, trust yourself. Please trust yourself. Like, you are amazing, and you are meant to not only support people in exactly whatever it is that you coach them in, but you're meant to receive handsomely for it. Like, you're giving a huge gift to people, huge gift, and you get to receive in return for that. Same way on the flip side, if what you're doing is not something you've walked through, connect with how you can operate in integrity with that, so that you can receive as well as give. So the doors to my mastermind are open. The early bird actually finishes today, so I'm going to post about this later. But if you have any questions about the mastermind, just connect with me rather than letting this early bird slip by and then have the doors close on you. So connect with me. Let's get your coaching business going. Let's get it like literally to take off, like rather than having the stragglers. You will have your predictable framework to be able to do it. You will have my support. I am going to be there with you every step of the way. I'm even going to build out your strategy with you, so you don't have to guess what direction you're going to go in. What is your next step? What do I do this month and not do the next month? Like, we're literally taking the pressure off you, and you're in like a completely safety zone. And then you have multiple calls to support you, you know, so that you can get your questions answered, you can get your sales up. I'll show you how to inject cash into your business. So you're super well looked after. So I will put the link here for you to be able to sign up. And like I said, if you have any questions, connect with me. Don't let it slip by just because you didn't ask. So make sure that you connect. Talk to you all soon.